All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Winnie, and I would like to welcome all of you to our live discussion today that we will be having on minority mental health, focusing on Haitian American communities. To talk about this with me today, I have Donnie. She was on my last talk a few weeks ago. So, welcome, Donnie. And then I have Mildred. You guys might remember her from the talk that we had on family relationships focusing on Haitian American communities. Welcome back, Mildred. And I have a new face with me today. Her name is Bree Joseph. She is a mental health life coach, and she is also a Haitian American, and she is joining us today for this discussion. So, welcome, guys. I'm so excited that you could join me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Of course. So like I said, we're going to be talking about mental health within Haitian American communities. Um, since we had a talk a few weeks ago about family relationships within Haitian American communities, we're not going to be focusing so much on family today, but more so on the mental health aspect and talking about mental illness and how all of these things are viewed within Haitian American communities. Um, so to start off the discussion, I'm gonna preface it with saying that it's very important to understand culture and how people within different cultures view mental health, especially for myself as a therapist and a life coach, and for Bria as well. It's very important that we know where the client is coming from and all of that. So what I'm hoping that happens today through this discussion is that we can be honest and authentic and looking at how mental health, which is so important, is viewed within Haitian American communities. And for our viewers watching, please feel free to leave us comments, questions, your reactions, and everything like that, so the conversation can be even more enriching. So, my first question to you ladies is, what value do you feel like um, members of the Haitian American community places on mental health?
I'll go first.
Mhm. Okay.
From what I was brought around, it's a very taboo topic. It really not something that exists, or if it does, if somebody's showing signs of mental health, it's usually caused by the law or the evil spirit. Never something that is addressed. It'll go away eventually, or and if it's not, if it doesn't go away, it's because you were cursed by something. So I don't exist in the community I was part of. It's not something you talk about or just brushed off like get
Mhm.
over it type of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, and I can definitely agree with that. It was interesting because in the DSM-5, the diagnostic manual that a lot of the mental health clinicians use to diagnose mental illness, there's a section in the back of it that focuses on culture. And one of the things that they talk about for Haitian Americans is that mental illness is viewed as maladie monde,
Hmm.
and this is kind of what you're referring to, Mildred.
Yes.
You were going to say something, Danny.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it really depends on what generation your parents are from, too. My parents are fairly older, early 70s. They'd probably kill me if they found out I told people their business on Facebook. But they're from an older generation where, like, Mildred is and yourself are mentioning, those weren't things that you called out as a mental illness. So I think depending on what generation your parents are from, it shapes how you were brought up to feel about those things. Because I for myself know for a fact I didn't feel like I could have that conversation as a kid because it just never felt like something we discussed or that was a norm for us. So I think, being in America and learning those things through being an American kind of separate the Haitian part where I'm like, no, I have feelings, I have these things going on that they may not be able to relate to because of the generation that they're from and their upbringing that they're from specifically. So.
What about
So
you,
for me, with my upbringing, a lot of it was voodoo. Someone put this on someone. That's the reason they're behaving this way. I grew up seeing a lot of mental illness, but I never knew it was called mental illness because in my head, something happened to that person where they probably pissed someone off, and the person went to Haiti and plays voodoo on them. And if they got better, then maybe the person's family took vengeance or something of some sort that happened. And if it didn't get better, then the person wasn't able to fight off the voodoo that was put on them. So mental illness is not something that I really believed or learned about until I got older, probably late teen, probably in high school. Because and even with high school, I would probably say that's when the transitioning was happening for me. So it probably took a better place for me in college, and that was even before I went to school for social work, and I was going to school for other things, and I was being exposed to mental illness, So it took a while because for me the first thing would be, okay, you did something to this person or someone and they're taking vengeance on you.
Right. And Stephanie says "Seleum Kurio Fu." In Haiti, they do not believe in the build up before the Kuri. To me, Kuri is the blow up of something that's been ignored. I think things are definitely evolving, but this is definitely a new topic for the Haitian community, and I
agree.
Certainly agree with what Stephanie said and with what all of you guys have said, because within the Haitian community, specifically in Haiti, you can see when somebody has a mental health issue and a mental illness, but they classify these people as fools, so they're crazy, right? So they're just kind of running around, and there's not necessarily any kind of mental health care to help these individuals with the struggles that they're having.
Or I want to add to that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Within kids, I've seen it labeled as, I don't know the word for it in English. The kids is jeje. If they have some type of mental delay, and that's what they would brush it off and not get that kid help.
Right.
Yeah.
Grow up with that delay for the rest of their life and be, not able to do anything because there's not the extra help for them to be able to succeed in life and thrive. So that's one thing and then also it would say, the law claimed that kids, that's why they're that way. And then they would just label them as that jeje kid, just shunned by society.
Yeah, so
I agree. I've heard of okay, sorry. I was gonna say I agree. I've heard of the jeje, and I've also heard of Madishon. My mom used to say, "Be careful how you talk to the older people because they take out their right breast and spit in the air, or something happen and put Madishon on you. Stuff like that is gonna happen, or even sending zombie after you." So for me, when I saw a lot of kids like that, that's what I thought too. I was like, oh, who done put Madishon on this person?
Yeah, And I was going to add to what Mildred was saying in regards to the jeje. So this would basically be translated into the kids being retarded, which nowadays we don't use our word anymore. We don't use retarded because we understand that a lot of these individuals aren't retarded. It's just an intellectual disability or a developmental disability. But within Haitian culture, like you were saying, Millie, they're jeje, and people really look down on individuals with these disabilities when a lot of the times, I mean, they could be getting services to help them with that, but the Haitian parents may not necessarily know that that kind of help is available.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
Someone says that that's kind of like for many island kids. Bree is right. It wasn't until college that I fully understood mental health and that we weren't exempt from it as Haitians. That's a comment from Stephanie. And then, yes, Madishon, yabmete tete gosho na soleil po.
Oh gosh, Stephanie.
But it's true though.
Yeah.
It's true because that's how it's viewed. Millie, you were gonna say something and I cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of like personally experienced the jeje phase with my mother. She had some mental delay, and that affected her schooling, and they didn't have, special ed and schools in Haiti for kids with special learning disabilities, and that affect everything else. So didn't. She probably will kill me if she hear me talking about this. But I asked permission. She said it was okay. But she finished sixth grade because she couldn't move further. There was not that. Nobody recognized that was like a mental delay that affect her learning. And still to this day, we don't know what that diagnosis is. She had, went on to live, a very okay life. She was able to have kids and married and all that stuff, but she struggled. She had the help, and she had the community support of understanding what kind of person she is, maybe five more. And, people show her much more kindness because she was viewed and, shunned from society. Even her own siblings really did not understand that. So that's one thing that she used to share with me, how she struggled with that.
Someone in the comments says he's both Jamaican and Bahamian, and mental health is shunned upon as well within those communities.
Yeah, I think it's just a lack of knowing. We all call it something else. We pin it on other things that we're accustomed to blaming things on in our personal culture. So I'm not surprised. I've had conversation with Jamaicans, and it's not a thing. It's not a thing. We talk about how a lot of times in the African American community as a whole, it's not a thing that Black and brown people typically want to address or talk about. Island folk, I'm sure, are twice as bad just because that's not their society norm to call it those things, So I'm not surprised. I wouldn't say that we necessarily shunned it. I don't ever recall my parents or anyone around me shunning it. I think there was just always, for me, it always came off as a lack of understanding of this is actually a thing. There are these spectrums, there are these things that you deal with, whether it's because of a chemical imbalance or birth defects or anything like that. There are these things that happen within your body that are outside of your personal control sometimes. And they don't understand that. So I think sometimes it's just a lack of understanding or education in that area,
Right.
versus just it's a bad thing. Now, I think these days, more recent years, I think it is shunned. So, I think it just depends on who you are, where you're from, what your family dynamic is or background is sometimes when it comes to these things.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And so as we're talking about the different cultures within the bigger African American culture, I'm kind of wondering if you guys have any insight as to what some of the attitudes towards seeking mental health care might be within the Haitian American community. Specifically, the attitudes towards taking psychotropic medication.
I know for me, I had people with mental illness, in my family, both when I didn't understand what mental illness was, and now recently. So for my family, there's still kind of like that taboo thing where they're kind of understanding, because I'm in the field, they're kind of understanding a little bit what that there's something considered mental illness. Okay, they may not know the difference as far as bipolar, schizophrenia. They might put everything together and say, this person, un problem mental, like this person have, a mental problem. They can't say what the name is, but they know that there's something going on. But even with that, you still can hear them saying that Munsa going don't, like a bad luck. So it's like they know it's mental illness, but they're still comfortable with saying that a curse or something was placed on this person, right? So I can speak firsthand with my uncle when he developed his psychosis, and he wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar. He was just diagnosed with psychosis and delusions of persecution, and they really understood that maybe something happened in his past and it was catching up to him. Okay. And I tried to explain to my family, and I tried to explain to my uncle what was going on. He turned on me because he was already paranoid. So he felt like I was working with someone out trying to get him. So I became the enemy when it came to him. I became the enemy. So he left his girlfriend. He thought I was working with his girlfriend to try to kill him. He moved in with my friend. When I would visit, I mean, I promise you, he had the best hearing ever. He could be in the backyard. If I say something, he'll come in, or you're talking about me, and he gets upset, and I'm trying to set him up. So I would try to explain to him, because we had him Baker Act, because he tried to drink bleach, and we had him Baker Act. And the funny thing is, after a day, they call us to come and get him back. And I was like, what happened to the 3 days? And he was still smart, because he told them that in the Haitian culture, sometimes you can put bleach and water to cleanse your body, and they believed it because it was taboo, and they let him out. Okay, despite what the family said, but they did give us some pills, and they did give him a diagnosis also. So for me, I felt like that was oxymoron, So when he came home, I tried to get him to take the medication, and he said that I set him up, that I was working with the doctors, I'm trying to kill him. He was so paranoid. I knew it was going to be difficult for him to take the medication, because he just did not trust anyone. He actually flushed him down the toilet and decided to go buy some marijuana, and said that, if he has a problem, that would work more than the medication that I set him up to get, and that I was trying to kill him and sell him and everything. So it was a very difficult time, especially since he was at my mom's house, and I would go over there frequently, because I was just so afraid for him, because he was starting to walk around with machetes. Okay. And I would tell my mom and my stepdad, you guys need to lock your door if you're sleeping, because this man is walking around with this. You don't know when he will strike.
Right.
Okay. So eventually he ran away. He'll reach out from time to time, but he eventually ran away. And that's when I tried to, show the family. And that's when they kind of said, you know what? Maybe there is something going on. But even with that, they still added, he has a don. So even with all of that, and even with all my expertise, and even with them knowing that I've always worked with the mental illness population, and I tell them these things, I explain these things to them, it's still somewhere in there they feel more comfortable with the thought of a don. And I think the reason being is because they do not understand the science behind the mental illness. They do not understand the names of mental illness. When you try to explain it to them, they feel like when you're saying someone's mood can be elevated or, depressed, oh, well, you can snap out of it. Just get up and go take a shower, or stop believing.
Or they ask you, what are you depressed about?
Right.
What are you?
There's no reason to be depressed. You have a roof over your head. You
there
have
it
food.
is.
What are you depressed for? Or you're not praying enough, and that's the devil. The devil is next to you, or you could be getting possessed. You need to go pray. So it's difficult in the Haitian culture.
It absolutely is. And I definitely hear the struggle that you had with your uncle, your entire family, of having to go through that. It was interesting for me to hear you say that the providers at the hospital believed what he said about Haitians mixing bleach with water to drink so they can cleanse their bodies. Because I think that a lot of times when providers don't understand a culture, and they just hear something from one person, and they
it's everybody.
That's the norm. It's everybody. So we're not going to provide you with the care that you need because that's a cultural thing. So I really hope that by talking about the different ways that culture affects mental health and mental illness and our different experiences, that if we have other therapists and other members of the healthcare community watching, that they can really hear that some of the things that they may read in books or they might hear from one person may not necessarily apply to everyone within that larger community. Danny and Millie, what are your thoughts on some of the cultural attitudes towards seeking mental health care within the Haitian-American community?
You go ahead, Danny.
I think it goes back to, so if I were to speak to our family specifically, or families like ours who are really faith-based, who are really into, pray about it and believing that God can heal you and do those things. I get the impression sometimes that we're not afraid of medicine. It's now you're talking about medicine because someone's mental state is off, and they don't. If you're talking blood pressure medication, they know it. If you're talking medication for diabetes, they get it. But then when you start talking about parce que tête mon nage un problème or whatever, that's like, what do you mean? How do I take the only thing I take medication for my head is if I have a headache. So now, I think when you start talking about mental health and providers and treatment and things like that, I think sometimes it all goes back to education and not personally dealing with. I think that happens when you haven't personally dealt with something in general. It's not something you're accustomed to. You're not going to be warm up to it very quickly. You're not going to be accepting of it really quickly. And we're not necessarily, not all of us, when I say this, I'm referring to the Haitian community. We're not necessarily the biggest researchers for ourselves.
Right.
A lot of our older generation, it's based on Samunte Dio, like what they got from somebody else. They'll ask a friend before they go in, check a credible website, and that's not everybody. But I think sometimes it's and not sometimes, most of the time, it's just the lack of knowledge, the lack of personal experience, the lack of just Mildred has a baby or somebody in the background. Yeah, it's just the lack of they don't know. So we have a better chance, our generation, because we can take those things that the generation before us did not have, they did not understand, and we're able to press forward and prepare the next generation better because of it. Unfortunately for us, some of the things that we may have dealt with, depression, things of that nature, it was, was never actually dealt with because our parents didn't get it. Their parents didn't get it to help them get it. But we have a better chance of saving our children from some of the things that the generation before us went through because they just didn't know. They didn't know.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. How do you guys think that Haitian Americans cope with stressors in general?
I'm sorry, cope with what? Can you repeat the question?
Pressure?
I didn't hear that.
Can you guys hear me okay?
It cut out a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How do you guys think in general Haitian Americans deal with life stressors?
Oh, I'll start.
Yeah.
I coached myself on this question just in case you asked. I mean, as far as it goes, I think we're raised to be extremely strong. We kind of put stuff off. I think it makes us actually terrible at dealing with stressors because we never actually deal with them. We brush it off, we cover it up, we mask it off, we put on a face for society, for our community. We hide behind activities, we make ourselves busy, and deep down inside, whatever that stressor is eating us up inside. You eventually, I've been there. Eventually you get to a boiling point, and I've had literal emotional breakdowns, panic attacks, because I'm just brushing stuff off. And to some degree, this is just how we're raised. Like, you're stressed about what? Like Bree said, you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table. What are you stressed about? And these things are embedded in our DNA because of how we're brought up. And we just don't know how to deal. And then now we're adults and we're trying and we still don't know how to deal. But I think that's the answer, that when it comes to stressors, we honestly, we're not equipped to deal with them all the time because of our upbringing. We are born and raised to be strong people, strong-willed, strong-minded, and we don't have a healthy balance of, okay, you can be strong and have a bad day. You can be strong and have a bad day and have an off day and deal with that off day so you can continue being strong. So that's just how I feel about it.
So for me, I can relate a lot. I was brought up, the strong child in the family, and I'm still considered the strong person in the family. And because of that, I don't feel like I am accepted well when I show a weak point. Then it's like, what's your problem? What's going on with her? What's wrong with her? So I'm always a strong person, but then it's also a problem. Oh, she's so strong.
Too
She's
strong.
so this. She's so that. You know, when I was a kid, it's the same way. We were taught to just deal with whatever happened. That this has happened. Life happens. Move on. Keep going. You have no reason to be mad. I'm your mom, I'm your dad, I take care of you, I put food on your table, you have no reason to be mad. So I wasn't able to explain or share a lot of stuff. I can even go as deep as remember when I was dating a guy when I was younger, and he started to ask me for sex. And I would talk to my friends, and my friends would make up all these stories, and I knew, they weren't true because people were trying to
Mhm.
make sex sound cool as a kid.
Mhm.
So I used to walk up to my mom, and I remember this so well, and I would just stare at her because all I wanted to do was talk to my mom. I just wanted to tell her, like, what do I
Mhm.
do, mom? This is happening. I just want to talk to you. But I just knew I'd been getting a slap across the face, getting thrown somewhere, and I just could not talk to my mom. And I remember
Mhm.
that till this day. And because of that, I always go and I try to make my kids feel comfortable. They still know me as the strict parent, and my ex-husband is the fun dad, but they know if there's anything going on, they come and talk to me because they know I will listen and I'm willing to help. So I've been strong for so long. I could take a lot of punches, and
Mhm.
but when I have a weak point, I just feel like I have to deal with my weak point by myself because my family do not understand me in that
Mhm.
way. They've always seen the lion that they built, but they don't understand the person who
Mhm.
gets to a weak like even now, I was going through a situation with my family, and I tried to explain to my mom how this stuff started ever since we were young. It's like leave the past alone, leave it alone. And it just kind of kills me, and I turned away from a lot of people because I just feel like no one understands me
Right.
in the family. No one
Right.
gets me. Everyone see me as the aggressive one because I'm outspoken, and everyone see me as the strong one because if they need something, they come to me and I can handle it. But when I'm trying to tell you, I don't feel like being strong today, then
Yeah.
it's leave the past in the past, leave it alone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult sometimes, and I'm left in a predicament where sometimes I find myself saying, pretend like you're the client and coach your own self. And it's sad
Mhm.
because sometimes I just want to talk to someone. I don't want to coach
Right.
myself, but I have
Right.
to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of what you're saying goes along with Stephanie's comment of you got to stay busy and look happy no matter what. And pakite mo con kozel. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can't talk to other people about what's going on with you or with your family because of this idea that things that happen within the family need to stay within the family. So
Mhm.
family secrets and everything like that.
Mhm. Yeah. I can relate to what you guys were saying, being the outspoken person in the family, and how do you cope with the stressors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, I am viewed as the sensitive person in the family. Like I let them see me cry when I'm hurt, and I would tell them I am hurting, and that would
Mm-hmm.
be viewed as I'm being disrespectful. My feelings don't matter. I'm overreacting, and
Mm-hmm.
that would lead me to shut down eventually and not
Yeah.
say anything, but bottle it all up, and it's just eating me inside. So, as at a young age, I realized I not have no one to turn to or talk about my feelings. So I started journaling. At you know, that your teen years when you're like more susceptible to stress around you,
Mm-hmm.
although they don't think you're stressing at teenagers, but to me, that's the most stressful time for me. So I would would start journaling and writing my emotions and what I'm feeling, and that would help me cope. But as I get older and go into college, I realize I need a support system for when things are falling apart, where I can like have a um, safe room and a safe haven to get down who I am. And over the years, I've created that where I can come in and just be there. And if I'm hurting, I can tell that person or people I'm going through this, and also continue to write. That's how I've been able to cope with different stressors and
Right. Yeah. And I also kind of feel like in general, Haitians tend to rely on music to kind of take the pain away. So the carnaval, the bal, like jazz, like all those different things is kind of this way of let's throw ourselves into something else so we can numb it. And I think something else that's not talked about within the Haitian community, especially in Haiti, is the level of alcoholism. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the substance abuse and the drug addiction, all of that plays into what you guys were talking about, because we are raised to not talk about our feelings. Like, you don't have any feelings, you don't have any um, emotions, you can't have any bad days. So when they are having these difficulties, they rely on a lot of the outside stuff to cope. A commenter on YouTube shared that her mother died before she had the chance to realize that she purposely expected her to be strong because she herself suffered and didn't get to deal with it in her own life. So it was some kind of a war protection measure, and I think that's true too. And especially as parents, um, our kids are going to model what they see in us, and I think that we modeled and we took from our parents what we saw that they did and what they modeled. Ben says, I still have a hard time expressing my feelings. I'm so used to brushing it off and moving on. That's what I've done my entire life. So it's definitely a topic that is not talked about in our community.
I want to go to the alcoholism topic that you mentioned, because when I was a kid, again, it's not until I grew up I learned the difference. When I was a kid, for us, when I saw people getting drunk in the street, that's when it was frowned upon in our community. That's when they call you the vagabond. You know what I mean? And you were the tafate and the vagabond. But it was okay if you did it in the house. So if you're able to
Not
get drunk
outside.
at home, then it's okay in the Haitian community. But when it's outdoor and people can see you, then it's a problem. Then you're all the type of name that they're calling you.
That's
So
because that's biblical for them.
yeah,
you don't drink till you get drunk, and you're not supposed to do it in public. For them, that's biblical.
Right. And for me, I didn't grow up with alcohol abuse because there wasn't a word for alcohol abuse. It was a vagabond. You were just a vagabond. That's what you were. So you weren't this person with an alcohol problem. You were just a vagabond because you should have got drunk in the house. Now, because of that, I also learned that they frown upon, drugs such as crack, in the Haitian community. You're the worst if you're smoking crack, if you're doing crack, even marijuana, you're the worst. So I know it was a bad thing. They didn't look at it as it was an illness. They looked at it like you had a choice. You just got with the wrong crowd and you're a vagabond. So and you're the worst if you're doing it. So they didn't see it that there was an addiction. I still don't feel any of them know the science behind it. So they don't look at it as an addiction. They look at it as you getting together with the wrong crowd to do the wrong thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I want to change the direction of our conversation just a little bit, so we can talk about food, because I think that food is such an important topic to talk about when we're addressing mental health issues. And so I'm wondering what you guys' thoughts are on the relationship that Haitians and Haitian Americans have with food and body image and all of that.
Oh gosh. So one thing I realized about food in the Haitian community very quickly, food is a way to say I'm sorry and I love you, because they would not say it. Okay, if they did something and they hurt you and they knew you were upset, they would bring you some food and be like, here, and everything it should be all good. I see it with my mom. It's like, here's some food. You can get in trouble or get a spanking. Here's some food if you're still upset. I've seen it in many cases where if I got upset and I'm like, I'm not going over you guys' house, and my stepdad called me, hey, I made your favorite food. You know what I mean? No one would say I'm sorry or acknowledge why I'm pissed off and don't want to come, but it's like I'm so trained that I automatically understand what's going on, and I said, fine, I know this is your way of saying I'm sorry. I'll come and get your food, and we just come and we joke about it. It's still a sad thing because we don't talk about the problem. It's here, you're mad, here's some food, I made your favorite. So
what's your favorite
I've noticed
food?
that.
I'm curious.
Let me tell you, I'm stuck with two. I love me some legume, the orange legume with some jun, and I love me some grill.
Okay,
that's my thing.
They know how to get you.
They really know how to get you.
They'll mainly do the legume though. But they know how to come back. And the funny thing is, I would say subconsciously I trained them too, because I know I'm pissed, and I said, you know what, that's their way of bringing it. I'm not even gonna argue. I'm gonna just go over there and eat their food and just forget about it and not talk about it. So that's what I've noticed with Haitians. Now, Haitian Americans, not so much. I realized with the Haitian American population, a lot of them are still a little bit more Americanized. So the food may not be a way to say I'm sorry. I feel like a lot of Haitian Americans have come to the part where we can talk our feelings off and tell each other how we feel, and tell each other what you've done to me or what I've done to you. And it's either we're going to be friends or we're not going to be friends. Versus, in the all Haitian community that I brought up with, regardless if I say I'm sorry or not, if I bring you food, that's a truce.
Stephanie made a statement that she took the words right out of my mouth. Food is comfort for Haitians, and it's very much true. We see it, and I don't know that it's just Haitians. I think I've seen it with a lot of other island cultures where if we take it back in time, this is what I had to offer. So this is what I'm offering you. So somebody's sick, you go to their house, you cook for them. My mom still does it. She will cook and bring a whole spread for the week to your house. These are the ways that we show we care. As it pertains to mental health, I don't know that I've ever made a correlation personally. I mean, I do know that, I've had moments where I felt like I was in a depression and I would binge eat, certain things. Do I think that that's a cultural thing? Not really. I'm not sitting eating a plate of food. I might, at the time, this is long ago, I would, Taco Bell was my thing. Like, I'm having a bad day, I'm going to go get Taco Bell and I'm going to eat it in secrecy in my car Nobody will ever know. Like my car becomes my panic room, and I'm panicking in there. I'm doing what I have to do, and I put on my face and I walk out the car. But as far as it goes in our Haitian culture, I don't know that I've personally had an experience with the two coming together, even as Bree was explaining, using it as a method of saying sorry. Our method of saying sorry was we just went on the next day like nothing happened. Like either we're gonna talk about it, and usually we're not, and we move on. Like that was it. There was no one cooking you a special meal. We moved on. No discussion. We're moving on. It's over. That was yesterday. So yeah, I can't say that I've had a personal correlation with the two in terms of culturally.
What about you, Millie?
Well, I'd go to the a body part, where if you're big in the Haitian culture, it means like you're well off. Or like what they will call, or sometimes they can really body shame you if you're and just play just a toll on your emotions and not really care whether you like it or not. They're just gonna come out and say, "Oh, it's that cool." Going and going. It's like, okay, that kind of hurt my feelings so much. That like, what have you been eating? That kind of stuff. That can really, I experienced that. That can really, really do a toll on your mental. Me, really affect your self-esteem in a way. It just really not give you the confidence that you need or want or the support you need from your family when it comes to the body image part.
Right. And
I agree. I agree with Millie with that, because I had an experience of that at the age of 14. So I became anorexic because of it. And that was before, again, anorexia was. It's after getting older and going to college, I was like, oh, so this is the definition of what I had when I was 14 years old. And it was so bad that, my friends and my family used to tease me and say, you look like you have AIDS. You're so skinny. Your neck is so skinny. You look like you have AIDS. And one time I passed out because I was literally not eating, because every time I would gain a pound, I had this family member who would tell me, oh, you're so fat. You're just getting fat. And I used to look myself in the mirror and say, I don't understand. I'm not eating as much. And he keeps telling me I'm fat. And one day I just saw myself as fat. Like I would literally look in the mirror and my body transformed. I honestly do not recall when the anorexia happened. But what I do remember is that I used to smell things in my room that would smell bad. Okay. And I tell people this all the time. It would smell bad, and I would look under my bed and I would see wrapped up grocery bags. And when I would look in it, because our parents would, we don't have the family dinner. They'll bring you the food wherever you are. And my mom used to bring me food in my room. And I guess somewhere subconsciously, I was dumping it in a garbage bag, tying it and hiding it under the bed. And I would forget about it until I would smell it. So I cannot honestly recall putting the food in a bag or putting it in some of my purses that would become moldy and I would have to throw it out. I cannot honestly recall doing it, but I remember that when my room would start to smell stink and I would look under the bed or something, I would see why it was stinking. I'm like, when did this food get under there? And looking back to it, when I started learning in college, I knew I was anorexic back then, because I literally stopped eating. I was so small that people thought that I was sick. And then one day I lashed out at my cousin and I told him, I said, you're the reason I passed out. You're the reason I stopped eating. And this is what you were doing to me. And he said, well, I was just joking. I didn't think you were taking it serious, but I did. At the age of 14, to tell a young kid growing up, going to school, getting, probably into issues with people because you're already Haitian, so you having like American at you and you're going home and then now you have a family member calling you fat, it does something to you mentally without you even knowing.
Yeah, and that definitely speaks to Stephanie's comment of how shaming people because of their body types is definitely normal within the Haitian community, and you're just kind of expected to be okay with it. I know that myself, I've heard a lot of, oh, you're too thin. You need to gain some weight, and I'm like, I am okay with the way that I look. Like, I am okay with my body weight. Why is that a problem for you? So it's definitely a common thing for us. There's a comment from Francoise that I want to go to. She says, can you talk about rape for a bit? Many of my clients don't know what the boundary is for rape. A counselor might ask, were you raped? And the answer is most often, well, no, he's my husband. What are you guys' thoughts on rape or consensual sex relationships within the Haitian American community? Have you guys heard anything concerning about it?
Yes, I have. I've heard a lot, and it also goes back to the lack of education, and it goes back to belief system. Okay, so in the Haitian community, I've seen a lot where women said, "Yes, that's my husband," or they say, "You know what? Let God deal with it." You know, they brush it off. You know, I've had cases where, you know, I've never been violated of the sort, but I've been molested as a child, and I've had cases where I went to my mom and said, "Hey, you know, this happened to me when I was a kid," and she was like, "You know what? We're gonna keep it in our family. We're not gonna go to this person's house anymore, and God is gonna deal with that person. God is the person who's gonna handle this person." So for me, I thought stuff like this was normal until I'm learning otherwise in school, that no, you know, like it wasn't from family members. It's like going to friends' home and their parents was there and they would probably try to do something to me. But it was later on I've learned, like, no, like you should have called the cops. This should have happened. But one thing I've learned in the Haitian community is that the women are very submissive to a lot of things that men do, and they do not challenge men as much, whether if it is their husband or if it's a neighbor or something. It's like, okay, just leave it alone. When I was in my 20s, a Haitian guy, I was working in a hotel, and a Haitian man, he was one of the housekeepers. I was a massage therapist at that time. He touched me in the elevator, and I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. When the elevator door opened, my face was all white. My manager asked me what happened. I told him what happened to me. And he was like, "No, we're going to call the cops and we're going to get this guy out here." The Haitian community in that hotel all turned against me because I reported the man. And it was the housekeepers. They, because I would have to go downstairs. I worked upstairs, but I would have to go downstairs to eat in the cafeteria. And they all attacked me. And the one who attacked me were the women. And then they said, "You know what? You don't know anything. You're just half Haitian." You know? And it was kind of brutal. Like I had to get HR involved, but I really got drilled on by the women. The men didn't say much. They just said, "Oh, you probably don't understand. You know, it was ways you could talk to him. He had a wife and he had this, he had that." But the women were the brutal ones.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Bree. And Francoise says that she's been told that Haitians don't do that. And I think
they sure enough do it.
Yeah, and to touch on what Stephanie's saying as well, is that this isn't a topic that we talk about a lot within the Haitian community. And I think for me personally, when I hear people talk about rape, like Haitians talk about rape, it's usually something along the lines of, "Oh, est-ce que pas de tel monde te fait cadet Jacques to tel monde," or
Yeah.
something like that. But it's not necessarily, oh, let's address it. We can talk about how it's not okay and like all these different boundaries. There's not that much communication about it.
I would say the pure Haitian community is a very, very strong community because of many things that I've seen this women go through, these sets of women, and they still move on. They're very strong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you guys think are some of the barriers to Haitian Americans seeking mental health care?
To Haitian Americans or Americans?
Haitian Americans seeking mental health care.
Oh, definitely one of the barriers would be upbringing, you know, what you were taught for so long. So unless if you're being exposed to and being educated about what mental illness is, you can easily find that there's no help. So that, you know, the fact that you're trained to keep everything within the home, you don't speak to strangers, you don't tell other people your business, you know, that's a taboo too. When I first went to speak up for myself in college, that was like one of the things. I'm like, this person is gonna think I'm crazy if I pile up the many things that happen in my culture. And then the next thing I thought of is, you know, we have such a negative connotation sometimes when you hear Haitians. You think they're dirty, you think they're poor, they're bad people sometimes, and you don't want to bring so much things up because you feel like the culture as a whole is going to be judged, you know. So those are some things that can be barriers. I mean, I wasn't brought up hearing of therapists or this or that or third. Like even right now with what I do, my mom feel like, oh, but you just sit there and listen to people talk. You know, she doesn't grab the concept. She doesn't fully understand what it is that I'm doing.
What about you, Danny and Millie? Can you think of anything besides, of course, what we already talked about that could possibly be barriers to Haitian Americans seeking mental health care?
I think this generation now knows so much more than what you know they were taught back then, like our parents' age. That I think they are more educated to reach out and get help. Some might be leery, but I think from what I've experienced, um, there's they're more apt to go and get that help with hesitation, of course. But I think things the wheel is turning in another direction. But also, you might hear some make excuses for not wanting to go and call it something else when it is, you know, probably mental health, or they do not want to be labeled with the scientific term of what that is, or they might hear the stories of they're just gonna automatically be on medication and they're not sick. So those are like barriers, I might say. But with our generation, I feel like we know better and we're trying to do better with what we know and also take what our parents have taught us, bring along with that, and that also caused the hesitation to be more apt to go get help.
Right. And hearing you say these things, Millie, make me think about the mistrust that can definitely be a barrier to Haitian Americans seeking mental health care, because one of the things with healthcare in general, but then when you are talking about mental health care and therapy, which is very, very intimate, like it's a very intimate process. And when um, you're not working with someone who looks like you, who's a part of your culture, who understands where you're coming from, there can definitely be a lot of mistrust. So I know that for some of the minority clients that I work with, that is something that they bring up a lot, is the fact that they feel like they can't really trust the other person. And I think that again goes back to the history of this country with racism and discrimination and some of the ways in which Black people and other minorities were victimized under the guise of, you know, treatment and healthcare, and then all of that. So I definitely feel like mistrust is a huge barrier.
Totally.
I would say that a major barrier, and I don't want to bubble this just to Haitian Americans. I think we can trickle it down to Black and brown people of all shapes and sizes. I think what it boils down to is the not wanting to talk to somebody you don't know. I am not going to sit and talk to someone who doesn't know me, knows nothing about me. Or on the flip side, it might be better for you to talk to someone who doesn't know you, who has no biases, who knows nothing at all about you. It may be more rewarding to you because they can't judge you if they don't know you. You know, ding, 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 like talk to a complete, you know, sometimes you sit on if you've ridden the bus or been on a plane, you talk to a complete stranger. You may not share your most intimate details, but you have conversations, sometimes endearing conversations with a complete stranger. And you learn so many things about yourself. You learn so much about that other person, and there's someone it's someone that you don't know. I think when you start talking about things that people are dealing with in their personal lives, if I don't want to share this with my family, why would I share it with someone who doesn't know me? And then when you start getting into the small population of mental health professionals who look like us, that's the other layer of it. Can I even find someone who really relates to my experience as a Black woman, my experience as a Black man? Can I really find someone that I trust to talk to? Because this other person, unfortunately, I don't feel they'll get it. And that may not always be the case, but certain things, you do need someone who looks like you to understand. And then if we do take it to now, you know, Haitian American or Jamaican American or Bahamian American, you know, some of these issues that you're dealing with are cultural now. So if I could find a Haitian therapist who could actually help me deal with the cultural things that I've dealt with, that I need to unpack and work through, I think it makes more sense, because some of the things may not be recognizable or even things that a person who's just, you know, Black American, as we would call it, or African American, they may not get it. It doesn't make sense to them, because culturally there's a cultural barrier now. So I think it's just the part of not feeling weird to be saying, you know, expressing the things that you've held in for so long, and who you're talking to may create the barrier. And then there's just some people who are like, no, I'm not talking to anybody. I don't care who it is, man, woman, Black, white, Chinese, Hispanic. I don't care who you are. I'm never going to talk to a living, breathing soul about this. I will sit in my room and talk to myself. And how do you break that? You know, how do you break the mold for someone who is crying for help? But the barrier is actually themselves. They're their only barrier. They're the only thing stopping them from. And I felt like that. I felt like I am the only thing stopping me from getting over this thing. You know, and then there's a part that Ben made a statement, you know, of, you know, you kind of bottle something in and just move on. Like, did I really move on from it? You know, I pushed it to the side, but did I really move on? And I think sometimes you don't move on. And the fact that you actually didn't talk to someone about it that's a barrier, because now you can't move on because you just keep pushing it back. You push it back. You push it back. It's still there. Something happens. It triggers you. It comes back up. Those are all the things that I think keep us from seeking help sometimes. Is, do we really want to move on from what it is that we're feeling?
Yeah.
Do I really want to get rid of this feeling? Do I like that this thing is my excuse to be angry sometimes? Do I like that? So a part of me doesn't want to, maybe a part of me doesn't want to deal with it because I have something to use as ammunition towards somebody, or, you know, whatever. Sometimes I think, you know, there are people who just don't want to talk to people because I'd rather live a little bit in my misery. You know, I'd rather live a little bit in my misery because, you know, misery is happiness for some people, you know. So I don't know that everybody's reason is the same. But the most evident thing that I see is that fear of letting someone that you don't know in. And I'm sure you guys see that, you know, in dealing with clients. The first time you meet them, it's probably it's work to try to get them to open up and let out and to say what they feel. So I think the first step is getting over that fear of talking to someone.
Right.
And then once you can get them in that room, maybe you have a better chance of actually, you know, breaking down the barriers, the full extent of their barriers.
Right. And just to add a little bit to what you were saying about ourselves being our own barriers, there's a few comments about that. And I think that kind of relates to the idea that we have to be strong. Like we're strong Black people, we're strong Haitians, we're strong fill in the blank. So for us to admit that we need help and that we need to talk to someone and that we need to seek mental health care would be, in a way, admitting that we're actually not that strong. And that doesn't mean it at all. Just because you need help doesn't mean that you're not strong. It's the opposite of that. I can probably go on a tangent on that itself, but admitting that you need help does not equate to somebody being weak. So I think that we definitely need to continue having conversations about asking for help and realizing that we're keeping ourselves stuck and we're keeping ourselves from getting better and from talking about the things that we need to talk about in order for us to actually be free of our past and to get to a point where we're thriving. And so as we wrap up, I have one last question for you guys in the panel and to our viewers as well. What is one advice you feel like you can give to a member of your community, so the Haitian-American community, and for those of you guys watching, if you're not Haitian-American, think about your own community. What is one advice you feel like you can give to someone in your community who might be experiencing difficulties with their mental
health? I'll speak from my own personal experience as a woman who is going to be a mom for a first time. I think it's very important, and I've said this recently to my husband. I said, I think I need to talk to someone about some of the things that I feel, because there are childhood things that come up in my adult life, my social, whether it's my social skills, my communication skills, those things come up in my adult life. And what I don't want to do is pass those habits. We talk about the things that our parents could not control, that they didn't know better, that they passed on to us, those things that we learned from them. I want to I don't necessarily want to unlearn everything, because I think some of even the flaws that our parents had are the reason we're so strong. And I don't want to erase those things, but I need to tailor them and put them in the right, pocket, and put them in the right box, so that my child can be better equipped to deal with things than I was. I'm very expressive now as an adult. I didn't feel like I was that as a child and a teenager, or even, I can say even 10 years ago. So I think my advice to my generation would be, learn to deal with those things that you struggle with, because your children are watching you if you have children, and they're learning to, I have a habit of, I'm not getting the answer I want. Okay, that I do that. I'm an okay person, and that's me moving on. I'm not having this conversation. I will brush the entire thing off, because I'm not having my way. And I can imagine my child doing that, seeing me do this, doing the same thing, and my reaction to them is going to be anger, or you're being rude, or you're being disrespectful. Think back to when you were a kid and you're mimicking the behavior of your parents, and you're disrespecting, you're all these things. You're disrespectful, you're rude, I don't know whose kid you are, all of these things. And we have to learn to deal with our feelings, our emotions, how to properly express ourselves, how to use our words. My sister would always tell her boys when they were younger and they were just whining, use your words. Use your words. And instead of throwing a tantrum, use your words. Imagine. I think as adults, sometimes we throw tantrums. We don't know how to use our words. So if we don't want the next generation to, if we want the next generation to continue on the path, the work that we've done within ourselves, being aware of our mental health, being aware of our feelings and the feelings of the people around us, we have to do the work so that they can continue it. If we revert and we go backwards, the next generation is not going to do any better than us. And we still have a lot of work to do. I really feel that there's a lot of work to be done. I think we need to learn to Stephanie said, speak up. I think we need to speak up for ourselves. I think we need to ask for help when we need help. I think we need to say, I've had enough when I've had enough. I'm stressed when you're stressed. I'm tired. I can't do this right now. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overworked. We have to say those things now so that we don't have this level of aggression and trauma that we're carrying on and passing on. They say generational curses and things of that nature. Deal with that stuff so that you're not passing it on to your kids and it stops somewhere. So my best advice is to, whatever you got to do to deal with your stuff. Well, I won't say whatever you have to do. If you need help, find the help. There are, I think in today's, I've found a lot of platforms. Winnie, I've shared this with you, where you can find Black and brown therapists. If that's your preference, you find one, you talk to someone, and you begin the process of dealing with what you have to deal with, so that you set an example, you set a trend for the next generation. So when your kid comes to you and they're having a rough day, you are better equipped to deal with it, because you dealt with what you felt. You've learned to deal with your own feelings, your own pressures in life, so that you're able to better help them and coach them through their life journey as well.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful. For me,
Definitely.
I'd say if you're not ready to go get professional help, surround yourself with a group of ladies or men that can help you what it is that you're going through.
Yes.
Support
Yes.
system is everything, and accountability is everything.
Yes.
For the mental health. Find you that one friend or friends that get you and will take you as you are without passing judgment, or just
Yes.
be present
Yeah.
for you at your lowest point. Especially now, we have everything at our fingertips. Too much information coming in all at once, and that can just drain somebody. And it's I saw Stephanie put down, take a break if you need to, whatever that looks like. Again, surround yourself with people that share the same mindset as you are, and not only will just support you with and go along with you, but also will challenge you um,
Yes.
where you are at most a deficit to yourself, until you feel capable to go and get that professional help. That
Yes.
Definitely.
yeah.
I just felt like saying, just amen, hallelujah to what both of you guys were saying. Like, we're so true. Like, these are definitely good advice. Very, very good advice. So amen. Amen.
For me, I would probably, tell to the Haitian Americans, educate yourself on your family and their background, because as tough as it is, or as it was growing up, they've learned that mindset somewhere. You have to understand that many of these people came from being ripped, their ancestors being ripped from their home and placed in new places, and they had to survive. They had to be strong and aggressive. They didn't have mental illness. They didn't have doctors. They didn't have, any of that understanding, because they were on survival mode all the time. They fought
Yeah.
their way and won, and was left paying for many, many years for winning a war to their freedom. So that's brutality on its own. And you
Right.
have these people who weren't given any education, having to survive and do everything on their own. So they came, and now they give birth to these, Haitian American children, and they only can do what they've learned in their past, their tradition, holding it up and keeping up with their tradition. So being that we are in a separate culture, and we're learning to identify differently, we look at our community, we look at our families and our upbringing, like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. It is horrible, but they did the best they could for what they knew, and what they continue to know. So I think if I can tell Haitian Americans that, it would make them look at a lot of their situations in a different angle, where that my mom, my dad, my uncle, whoever raised me, did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. Many of them was escaped from brutality, from a president who was torturing and killing them, from the Tonto Maku, to come here, and they've been brought up with a certain mentality and they instilled it in the kids, and they don't understand. We don't have that here at this time, what they were going through. So I feel like if Haitian Americans can understand the background of their family, why they're so strong, why they think a certain way, why they behave a certain way, it would make the process for seeking help a little bit easier than just saying, well, my family was X, Y, and Z, and I feel scarred and I feel broken. You have to understand that many of them probably lost siblings coming on a boat trying to escape a president that tried to kill them. They're scarred too, and they raised you rigid for a reason. So when I started looking into that, it kind of made me empathize a little bit for the community, and it was easier to open up for help, because I knew I wasn't going to get the help that I needed from someone who have a survival mind frame. I have to get it elsewhere. So that's what I would probably say to the Haitian American community.
Yeah, that is so true. Understanding our family histories and our backgrounds, family backgrounds, is definitely very important to our mental health and to how we deal with that. So we're at a point where I think we are ready to wrap up. Do you guys have any final thoughts? All right. Well, if nobody has final thoughts and no final thoughts from our viewers, we're gonna go ahead and end our discussion for today. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Talking to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for everybody who was watching from beginning to end, I appreciate you guys. We all do. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back online again next Saturday. We're gonna keep talking about minority mental health. Next week, we're gonna be focusing on Korean American communities. So be sure to tune in for that conversation.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful
Thank
weekend.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.